There is a moment before dawn when the night begins to thin. Not yet light, not still dark. The stars remain, but something in the air has shifted. You can feel it if you are awake, a kind of opening, a readiness. The Buddha sat beneath a tree on such a night. He had been sitting for hours, his body still, his breath moving quietly through him. The world around him had not changed, the same earth, the same sky. But something inside him was turning toward clarity. This was not the first night he had sat. He had been practicing for years, fasting until his ribs showed, pushing his body to the edge of collapse, studying with teachers who offered him concentration, who offered him states of deep stillness, and he had mastered what they taught. But the suffering had not ended, the questions had not dissolved, so he had stopped forcing, he had eaten. He had let his body return to balance, and then he had sat down beneath a fig tree, a tree we now call the Bodhi tree, and he made a quiet commitment. He would not rise until he understood, not with urgency, not with violence, but with a steady, patient attention. You can imagine the weight of that, the simplicity of it. To sit with one question and not look away. The night unfolded around him. There were sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an animal, perhaps the wind moving through the branches. He did not block them out. He let them arrive and pass. He returned to his breath. He returned to the body. He noticed what arose. And in that returning, something began to clarify. The traditional accounts say that during that night, he passed through what are called the 3 watches. The first watch, the second watch, the third. Each one a deepening, each one a layer of seeing. In the first watch, he saw his past lives, not as a story to entertain, not as proof of anything, but as a direct perception of the way experience continues, the way patterns repeat, the way we carry forward what we have not understood. He saw how the mind clings, how it builds identity from memory, how it mistakes the flow of conditions for a solid self. In the second watch, he saw the rising and passing of all beings, the way birth leads to death, the way every form that comes together will eventually come apart. He saw the mechanism of karma, not as punishment, but as cause and effect, action and consequence, the way craving pulls us forward into more becoming, more grasping, more suffering. And in the third watch, just before dawn, he saw the 4 noble truths. He saw suffering clearly. He saw its origin. He saw that it could end. And he saw the path that leads to its ending. This was not belief. This was not philosophy. This was direct knowing. The kind of knowing that changes everything because it is not separate from experience. It is experience seen without distortion. The metaphor returns here, that moment before dawn, that thinning of the night. He had been sitting in darkness, but not fighting it. He had been with the not knowing. And in that willingness to stay, the light came. Not because he demanded it, but because he stopped blocking it. When the morning star appeared, he opened his eyes. The world had not transformed. The tree was still a tree. The earth was still the earth, but he was awake, fully, completely. And the suffering that had driven him, the existential ache that every human being knows, had been understood at its root. He did not leap up. He did not announce anything. He sat for a while longer, resting in what had been seen, letting it settle. There is something important in that. The awakening was not an explosion. It was a quiet arrival, a recognition. The way you might recognize your own face in a mirror after years of looking past it. And what he recognized was this, that clinging is the root. That craving and aversion create the sense of a separate self, and that separate self creates suffering. That when clinging is released, suffering ceases. Not because the world becomes perfect, but because the relationship to experience changes. You are listening to this now. Your breath is moving. Your body is here. The night, wherever you are, holds you. You do not need to become the Buddha. You do not need to sit under a tree for hours. But you can notice, you can return. You can feel what it is like to stop pushing against this moment and simply let it be as it is. The Buddha's awakening was his, but the path he saw is not owned. Available, as close as your next breath. The Buddha sat beneath a tree and said he would not rise until he found what he sought. Not tomorrow, not when the conditions improved. Not after one more preparation. He sat. That decision is easy to admire from a distance. We place it in the past, in a different world, under a tree we will never see. But the decision itself was ordinary. It was the decision to stop waiting. We tell ourselves we will begin when things settle, when the mind is calmer, when we have read enough, understood enough, cleared enough space in our lives. We are waiting for permission that will never arrive. The path does not begin when we are ready. It begins when we stop insisting that we are not. A tree root finds water through stone, not by force, not by waiting for the stone to soften. It stays, it presses gently, persistently into the same place. The stone does not move, but over time the root does. It finds the smallest opening and continues. This is not about effort in the way we usually think of it. It is about presence that does not flinch. When you sit, the mind will offer you reasons to move, an itch, a thought that feels urgent, a discomfort in the knee or the lower back. These are not emergencies. They are the mind testing whether you mean it. You can sit in one place for 10 minutes without adjusting your posture unless it is truly necessary. Not as punishment, not as discipline in the harsh sense, but as a way of learning what it feels like to stay. The Buddha did not sit because the night was auspicious. He sat because he decided the search was over. Not the search for awakening that continued, but the search for better conditions, for a more convenient time, for a self that was finally prepared. He stopped looking elsewhere. When the root meets stone, it does not turn back. It does not wait for rain to soften the surface. It remains in contact. That contact is the work. The stone will do what stones do. The root will do what roots do. You are not trying to force your way through resistance. You are learning to stay present with it. Sit somewhere quiet. Set a timer if that helps. Let your hands rest. Let your back find its own uprightness, not rigid, not collapsed. And then, stay. The body will want to shift. Let the impulse arise, notice it, feel where it lives. In the shoulder, the hip, the base of the spine. You do not have to obey it immediately. You can be with it first. This is not about ignoring pain. If something hurts in a way that signals harm, move. But most of what we feel is not harm. It is restlessness. It is the habit of adjustment. It is the belief that comfort is always one small movement away. It is not. The root does not find water by moving from stone to stone. It finds it by staying long enough to sense what is already there. When you sit without moving, something shifts. Not in the first minute. Maybe not in the first 5. But the mind begins to notice that it is still here, that the discomfort did not destroy it, that the itch faded without being scratched, that the thought, urgent as it seemed, dissolved on its own. You begin to feel the ground beneath you, not as an idea, as a fact. The Buddha's awakening did not happen because he sat. It happened because he stopped leaving. He stopped negotiating with his own presence. He met the night, the body, the mind, exactly as they were. You do not need a fig tree. You do not need a special cushion or a silent room. You need only the willingness to stop insisting that this moment is not enough. Sit. Let the body settle. Let the breath move as it moves. And when the mind says, not yet, not here, not like this, let that be another thing you notice. The root does not argue with the stone. It stays. We imagine awakening as a single flash. One moment of seeing that changes everything. But the night the Buddha sat beneath the tree, understanding arrived in 3 long watches. Not all at once, not even quickly. The mind opened in stages, each one building on what came before. In the first watch of the night, he saw his past lives. Not as doctrine, but as direct perception. The chain of births stretching backward, each one conditioned by what preceded it. He saw the patterns repeating. The same thirsts, the same confusions, wearing different faces across time. In the second watch, his vision widened. He saw not only his own chain of lives, but the arising and passing of all beings, creatures appearing and vanishing according to their actions. The whole field of existence shimmering, nothing solid, nothing permanent. Birth and death moving like waves. In the third watch, he understood the mechanism itself, the chain of suffering. How ignorance leads to craving, craving to clinging, clinging to becoming, becoming to birth, birth to aging and death. He saw the links clearly, and he saw how they could be released. 3 watches. 3 movements of understanding, like dawn coming not in one instant, but in three distinct phases. First, the darkness softens. You cannot yet see the horizon, but the quality of night has changed. Something is shifting. Then the horizon begins to glow. Still no sun, but now you can make out shapes, the line where earth meets sky. Finally, the sun appears. What was hidden becomes visible. We often miss this structure in our own experience. We wait for the single moment of clarity, the breakthrough, the answer that solves everything. And when it does not come, we think we have failed. But insight does not usually work that way. It arrives in layers, each one preparing the ground for what follows. You can see this in something as simple as learning to recognize your own anger. At first, you notice it only after the fact. Hours later, you realize you were angry during that conversation. The darkness has softened slightly. You are beginning to sense something you could not see before. Then you start catching it sooner. Still in the grip of anger, but now aware that it is happening. The horizon is glowing. You can make out the shape of the emotion while it moves through you. You are not yet free of it, but you are no longer completely identified with it. Later, you begin to feel the conditions that precede anger. The tightness in the chest, the narrowing of attention, the story starting to form. Now the sun has appeared, you can see the chain before it fully tightens. And sometimes, just by seeing it clearly, the chain does not complete itself. 3 stages. Not because you planned them, but because understanding deepens this way. The first watch reveals the pattern. The second watch shows the pattern is not solid. The third watch sees how the pattern forms and how it can cease. When you notice 3 distinct phases in any simple activity today, you are training this kind of attention. Making tea, for instance. There is the beginning, filling the kettle, choosing the cup, waiting for the water to heat. There is the middle, pouring, steeping, watching the color change. There is the completion, the first sip, the warmth spreading, the cup becoming empty. Most of the time we collapse these phases into one blurred event. We call it making tea and move on. But when you slow down enough to feel each stage as its own moment, something shifts. You see that even this small act is not a single solid thing. It is a sequence, each part arising from conditions, each part passing away. This is not about making tea more special. It is about seeing what is already happening, the structure of experience, how everything unfolds in movements, not in frozen blocks. The Buddha did not sit down and instantly understand everything. He sat through the night. He moved through stages. Each watch of the night brought a different quality of seeing, and by morning the chain was clear. You do not need to wait for one great flash. You can notice how understanding is already arriving in layers, how the darkness softens before the horizon glows, how the horizon glows before the sun appears. Each stage matters. Each one is part of the path. When you see your own mind moving through phases, first noticing, then recognizing, then understanding, you are walking the same ground, not striving for a single perfect moment, but allowing insight to deepen naturally, the way dawn comes slowly, in stages, until everything is visible. On the night of his awakening, the Buddha sat beneath a tree. His body was still, his breath was quiet. And then the doubts came. They did not arrive as demons with claws. They came as reasonable voices, familiar tones. The kind that sound like wisdom but carry the scent of fear. You are too weak for this. You have lived softly. You do not have what the old ascetics had. Turn back now while you still can. These were not lies, exactly. The Buddha had lived in comfort once. He had tried extreme practice and abandoned it. He had eaten again, rested again. His body was not wasted. His mind was not sharpened by years of deprivation. The doubts had evidence, and this is how doubt works. It does not need to be true. It only needs to sound reasonable enough to make you pause. A flame bends when the wind rises. If you watch closely, you see the movement. The flicker, the way the light wavers and leans. But if the wick is steady, the flame does not go out. It bends and then it burns. The Buddha did not argue with the voice. He did not defend himself. He did not list his qualifications or rehearse his determination. He simply stayed. This staying is not dramatic. It is not a battle. It is the quiet choice to remain present when the mind offers you an exit. The doubts kept speaking. You are too late. Others have done this before you. What makes you think you will succeed where so many have failed? You should have started younger. You should have trained harder. You have already wasted years. Again, not lies, just anger. Just the mind doing what it does when something real is near. When you sit today, or tomorrow, or in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, the same voice may come. It will not say you are unworthy of awakening. It will say something smaller, something that fits your life. You are too tired for this. You are too distracted. You have tried before and it did not work. This is not the right time. You do not have the right teacher, the right cushion, the right silence. The content changes. The function does not. Doubt is the wind that tests the flame. It rises just before a shift. Not because you are failing, but because you are near something that matters. If you name it, the wind loses some of its force, not all of it, but enough. When doubt arises, say the word silently. Doubt, just that, not I am doubting or this doubt is wrong. Just the word itself, like noting a sound or a sensation. Then return to your breath, one full cycle, in and out. Then name it again if it is still there, doubt, and return to your breath a second time. And if it persists, name it once more, and return a third time. This is not a technique to make doubt disappear. It is a way to stop treating doubt as a verdict. Doubt is a visitor. It knocks. You open the door, see who it is, and then you return to what you were doing. The Buddha did not wait until he felt certain. He did not wait until the voice stopped speaking. He sat while the voice spoke. He touched the ground with one hand. He stayed. The flame bent. The flame did not go out. You do not need to be stronger than your doubt. You do not need to be more convinced, more committed, more pure. You only need to notice that doubt is present and then choose not to follow it into the next room. This is the practice, not once but each time. Not perfectly, but plainly. When the voice says you are too tired, name it. Return to your breath 3 times. When it says you are too late, name it. Return. When it says this will not work for someone like you, name it. Return. The wind will rise again. It always. But you are learning something the Buddha learned under that tree. Doubt is not a sign that you should stop. It is a sign that you are standing at a threshold. The mind does not send doubt when you are wandering. It sends doubt when you are getting close. So when it comes today, do not be surprised. Do not take it as evidence. Let it be wind. Let yourself be the flame that bends and does not go out. Name it, breathe, return. The wick is steadier than you think. On the night of his awakening, the Buddha sat beneath the tree and turned his attention inward. Not toward bliss, not toward escape, toward the question that had carried him there. Why do we suffer? He did not find a single answer. He found a chain. When this is, that is. When this ceases, that ceases. Not one cause, not one villain, a sequence. A procession of conditions, each leaning into the next, like a row of dominoes falling. Each one tips because the one before it tipped. Each one tips the one that follows. None stands alone. None is the first. None is the final reason. We want suffering to have a name, a face, a single thing we can point to and say, there, that is why I hurt. If only I could remove that one thing we think, I would be free. But suffering does not work that way. It moves in links. Consider a moment of anger. It arrives suddenly, hot and tight. We feel it in the chest, the throat, the hands. It seems to come from nowhere, or from one clear source. Someone said something. Someone did something. That is the cause, we say. But if you sit with it, if you look more closely, the anger did not begin with the words. The words touched something already present, a thought about how things should be. A story about fairness, about respect, about what you deserve. That thought was there first, waiting, and before the thought, a sensation, the body already tense, the breath already shallow, something unnoticed humming beneath awareness. And before that, perhaps tiredness, perhaps hunger, perhaps a conversation from yesterday that left a residue. Each condition leaning into the next, each one both caused and causing. The dominoes do not fall because of the last one. They fall because the whole row was arranged. This is what the Buddha saw. Not a single origin, a dependent arising, a web of conditions each supporting the others. When this is, that is. If there is contact, there is feeling. If there is feeling, there is craving or aversion. If there is craving, there is clinging. If there is clinging, there is becoming. If there is becoming, there is birth. If there is birth, there is aging, death, sorrow. Not because one thing caused all the others, because each one makes space for the next. This is not abstract. You can see it in your own experience. Sit quietly for a moment. Let the body settle. Let the breath move without interference. Now bring to mind a feeling that arose recently. Not a thought about a feeling, the feeling itself. Tightness, restlessness, sadness, irritation. Let it be something small. Something you can hold without being overwhelmed. Feel it in the body. Where does it live? The chest? The belly? The shoulders? Now ask softly, what was present just before this feeling arose? Not what caused it in the grand sense. Just what was there one step back. A thought, perhaps, a memory, a sound, a shift in the room. Something touched something, and the feeling followed. Let that condition come into view. Do not analyze it, just notice it. Now step back once more. What gave rise to that condition? What was present before the thought, before the memory, before the sound became significant? Perhaps a state of mind, perhaps a bodily tension you had not named, perhaps a need for quiet, for rest, for connection that had gone unmet. Let that come into view. And once more, what supported that state, that tension, that unmet need? Was there tiredness? Was there a choice made earlier in the day? Was there a pattern old and familiar running beneath the surface? You are not looking for the one true cause. You are tracing the links, each one real, each one part of the chain. The dominoes fall because they were arranged. But notice, each one also had to be standing. Each condition had to be present. Remove one and the sequence changes. This is not about blame, not about finding the mistake. It is about seeing clearly. When you see the chain, you see where it can be interrupted. Not by force, not by willpower, by recognition. When this ceases, that ceases. If you do not feed the craving, clinging does not arise. If you do not cling, becoming does not solidify. If you meet the feeling with space instead of reaction, the next link does not form. The practice is simple. Trace one feeling back through three conditions. Not to solve it, not to fix it. To see it as it is, dependent, conditional, not solid. You may find that the feeling softens when you see its roots. You may find that it does not. Either way, you have seen one clear link, one place where cause and effect move together. That is enough. The Buddha did not awaken by finding the first cause. He awoke by seeing the whole chain, and the way it could be undone. There is a story told in the Zen tradition about the night the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. He had been sitting for hours, maybe days. The records are not clear about time. What they say is this: near dawn, he looked up and saw the morning star, and in that moment, he and all beings awoke together. Not just him, all beings. We imagine awakening as a rupture, a blinding light, a voice from nowhere, something that severs the world into before and after. We think it must feel like crossing a threshold we can never uncross. But the story does not say the sky split open. It does not say he heard thunder or felt the ground shake beneath him. It says he looked up, he saw a star, and he understood. It is easy to miss what this means. A window cleaned. The view was always there, but now nothing stands between the eye and what is seen. The mountains were always mountains. The star was always burning in the sky. What changed was not the world. What changed was the film of expectation, the dust of wanting things to be other than they are. He looked, and for the first time, nothing interfered with the looking. We carry a quiet belief that truth must announce itself, that it will arrive with fanfare, with certainty we can hold in our hands. But the morning star does not shout. It simply appears when the conditions allow it. The darkness thins, the eye opens, and there it is, as it has always been. This is not what we expect awakening to feel like. We expect transformation to feel large. We expect to become someone new, someone wiser, someone finally free of doubt. But the Buddha did not become different. He saw clearly. And in that seeing, the question of who he was dissolved like mist in sunlight. There was just seeing. Just the star. Just the breath moving in and out, the cool air on skin, the stillness of the early morning. When we practice, we often look for signs. We check our experience against some imagined standard. Are we calmer yet? Are we more compassionate? Are we closer to something we cannot name, but feel we should be reaching for? And in that checking, we miss what is already here. The breath is already breathing. The body is already sitting. The sounds of the world are already arriving, unasked for, complete. A window cleaned, not by effort, but by seeing what was covering it. The dust was never part of the glass. It simply gathered over time. And when it is wiped away, we do not see something new. We see what was always there, no longer obscured. The practice is not to create clarity. It is to notice what clouds it. Today, you might try this. Look at one ordinary thing as if seeing it for the first time. Not as a task, not as a meditation technique, just as an experiment in attention. A cup on the table, a tree outside the window, your own hand resting in your lap. Let the eyes rest there without naming, without comparing, without deciding if it is beautiful or plain or worth your time. Just let it be seen. What happens when you do this is subtle. The mind wants to move on. It wants to catalogue, to label, to file the thing away and return to its usual concerns. But if you stay a moment longer, something shifts. The cup is no longer just a cup. It is this shape, this color, this particular way light falls across its surface. The tree is no longer just a tree. It is movement, shadow, the specific angle of branches against sky. Your hand is no longer just your hand. It is warmth, weight, the faint pulse of blood beneath skin. This is not special seeing. This is simply seeing without the filter of habit. The Buddha looked up and saw the morning star, and in that moment, he and all beings awoke together. Not because the star did something to him, not because he finally achieved what he had been striving for, but because in that moment there was no separation between the seeing and what was seen. No self standing apart, evaluating, measuring, wanting it to be different. Just the star burning quietly in the sky. Just the awareness that holds it. We think awakening will feel like arrival, like finally getting somewhere we have been trying to reach. But it is more like remembering something we forgot. The view was always there. The morning star was always burning. We were simply looking through a window we did not know was dirty. And when the dust clears, we do not see something new. We see what has always been here waiting, not for us to become worthy of it, not for us to earn it through effort or discipline, just waiting for the moment when we stop adding layers between ourselves and the world and let things be as they are. The star does not ask to be understood. It simply shines. The Buddha sat through the night. By dawn, something had fallen away. Not added, not achieved, released. What he saw was this: suffering arises when we cling to what cannot be held. And clinging can cease. The path is not hidden. It has always been here, woven into breath and body and the way attention moves. He did not become a god. He became awake. And what he found was not his alone. This is the quiet gift at the center of his story. Awakening is not reserved. It is not earned through perfection or granted by favor. It is the natural result of seeing clearly, of letting go, of walking the path with patience and care. You do not need to sit under a tree for 49 days. You do not need to renounce the world or master ancient languages. The teachings are not locked away. They are offered freely, like water, like air. What the Buddha discovered that night, he spent the rest of his life sharing. Not as doctrine, not as belief, as practice, as a way of living that reduces suffering in yourself, others, in the world you move through. And the practice begins simply, with noticing, with breathing, with feeling the body as it is, not as you wish it to be, with watching thoughts arise and pass like clouds, with meeting each moment without grasping, without pushing away. This is not easy, but it is possible, and it is enough. There will be nights when the mind is restless, when old patterns return, when the path feels unclear. This is not failure. This is the path. The Buddha himself faced doubt, distraction, fear. He did not transcend these things by force. He sat with them. He saw them clearly, and in seeing they lost their grip. You can do the same. Not because you are special, because you are human, because awareness is already present, because the capacity to wake up is not separate from you. It is you underneath the noise. So let this story rest in you, not as inspiration alone, but as companionship. The Buddha walked this path first, but he did not walk it so that you would worship him. He walked it so that you would know the way is real. The way is open. And now, if you are willing, let this practice extend outward. Bring to mind someone you care for, picture them gently, and offer them this: may you be safe, may you be peaceful, may you be free from suffering. Let the words settle, not as performance, but as genuine wish. Now bring to mind someone neutral, someone you barely know, a face you pass, a name you forget, and offer them the same: may you be safe, may you be peaceful, may you be free from suffering. Now, if you can, bring to mind someone difficult, someone who has caused harm or irritation or pain. You do not need to forgive, you do not need to forget, but see if you can offer this: may you be safe, may you be peaceful, may you be free from suffering, not for their sake alone, for yours, because hatred held is suffering, and release is always possible. And finally, turn this toward yourself: may I be safe, may I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering. Let it land, let it be true. This is metta, loving kindness. It is not sentimentality. It is not pretending the world is soft when it is not. It is the deliberate cultivation of goodwill. It is choosing, again and again, not to harden. The Buddha's awakening was not the end of suffering in the world. It was the discovery of a way through. And that way is here. For you, for anyone willing to walk it. If you would like to continue, there are other teachings waiting. Other nights, other practices, but there is no hurry. You can return to this moment, to this breath, to the simple fact of being here, awake, alive. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free from suffering. May you rest well.